defects. Then they glue the pieces together. To make veneer sheets for the front of the plywood door facing the side that will show, they line up the wood's grain and other features in mirror image. For the back, the side that won't show, they assemble the defective parts they cut out earlier. They use 3 veneer sheets to make up the plywood door facing. They apply glue to both sides of one sheet, then sandwich it between 2 other sheets. They feed the 3 sheets through a hot press at more than 100 degrees Celsius. In a minute and a half, the glue cures, and those 3 sheets of veneer become a 3-ply panel of plywood. Then they sand the panel. Plywood door facings can be made from more than 15 different species of wood, from birch and oak to maple and mahogany. At the second factory, they make the core of the door. They glue together strips of wood to form the middle, then frame them with pieces of white pine. A press pushes the core pieces together, then activates the glue not by heat as most presses do, but by microwaves. Next, they sand and calibrate the core. After the glue machine coats the core, they stick a plywood door facing on each side. They stack a few doors at a time into a cold press for a half hour until the glue dries. Then set them aside while the glue cures for another 8 hours. Next, they size the width and length to the final dimension, bevel the edges, and cut the exact height of the door. Then they inspect the door on both sides. A machine prepares the door for hinges. Then another machine cuts the hole for the knob. The finishing process takes just 70 seconds per door. One side is sanded, stained, and sealed, then sanded again and varnished. The machine then flips the door over and does the same thing to the other side. The game of paintball is a cross between tag, hide and seek, and capture the flag. You try to steal the other team's flag and eliminate your opponents with an air gun that shoots an exploding paint capsule called a paintball. Paintballs are made entirely of non-toxic food-grade ingredients. To make the hollow shell, they first pour water into a giant heated mixing bowl. They add a sweetener and a secret combination of food ingredients the company won't divulge. Then, finally, the key ingredient that gives the shell its shape: gelatin, the kind used to make gummy bears. They melt and mix everything for a half an hour. Then line it up for what they call the drop, transferring the gel from the mixer into a heated vat called the gel tote. They filter out any globs that didn't melt. Once the gel is securely in the tote, they lower in a giant blender. They pour in food dye and blend for about 20 minutes. Elsewhere in the factory, they use the same method to dye what's called the fill, the paint that goes inside the shell of the paintball. It's made of polyethylene glycol, the inert liquid in cough syrup. They thicken it with crayon wax. The gel and fill meet their maker in what's known as the feed room. Here, the vats of gel and fill feed a capsulation machine one floor below. This machine is the same kind used to make bath beads and gel cap medicine. First, the machine spreads out the gel onto a cool drum. This creates a continuous thin sheet of gel called a gel ribbon. This cooling cures the gelatin to the point where it can now be molded into the hollow shell of the ball. The machine presses the gel ribbon into a die with half-circle pockets, each forming one half of a ball shell. The machine does the next 3 steps in one shot. It aligns the 2 half shells together to form a hollow ball, injects the fill, then seals the 2 half shells together. These newly minted paintballs are still quite soft though. If they're not dried out, they'll lose their shape. So they fall down onto a conveyor, then roll into a tumble dryer. From here, they'll go on to a bakery-style rack until they dry out completely. To make dual-colored paintballs, they use the exact same process, but feed 2 colors of gel ribbon into the capsulation machine, 1 color for each half of the shell.